In the process of making my previous episodes where I talked about each of the 3 tie-in games to the Michael Bay films, I may have caught something that may be a bit detrimental to my health.
So I have a family now. Look at him. He's awesome. I also have this scuba Spider-Man. I'm not too sure where he came from. I found it at my grandma's house the other day. Just kind of looks goofy. Unfortunately, this endeavor has led to me running low on funds, meaning the show's going to be severely impacted, so I need to find new forms of making money. I tried to refund my copies of War for Cybertron and Rise of the Darkspark, but the bank didn't like that very much and they broke both my legs. So, in the meantime, while I search for new forms of employment, let's discuss today's topic. Transformers War for Cybertron. Video game developed by High Moon Studios, published by the most consumer-friendly company ever, Activision. It's lauded by many as one of the best Transformers games, which really isn't saying much. I mean, what did we have? We had the original movie game, we had Revenge of the Fallen, we had Rise of the Darkspark, and some even argue it's one of the greatest video games in general. And now that I have my own copy of the game, that for some reason it's missing its cover art, I think it's time to try it out.
Later.
Wow. So Transformers War for Cybertron. It's an over-the-shoulder third-person shooter that was made by High Moon Studios 15 years ago. Feel old? Good. This is a game for the longest time that I never really got the chance to play, at least not to my memory. I remember seeing it at stores all the time back in the day, but I just never got a chance to play it, which is shocking for how big of a Transformers fan that I am, or that I claim to be. But I always saw gameplay of it. I always saw just the box. I always saw it everywhere back in 2010. And even for a couple years after that, until it eventually got taken off store shelves. And from what I know online, this game is special. A lot of people hold this to their hearts dearly. It's a special game. And today, I wanted to look at Transformers War for Cybertron to see if it is any good 15 years later.
Alright, first order of business, I gotta inspect the graphics.
Alright, so don't take this the wrong way, but this game is hideous in the most beautiful way possible. Color is kind of illegal in this universe. You can tell the people that work on Warzone made this game. I don't hate how this game looks. I just wish there was more color, but what is here, I absolutely adore. I think it really works for Transformers. Most importantly, the art style is just so beautiful. However, I also think the game graphically just holds up very well. Iacon and Kaon look amazing, and as I said, could use a bit more color, but honestly, I don't mind it at all. It's much better than Need for Speed Most Wanted, that's for sure.
But who cares about graphics? Because all Transformer fans know the most important thing about a Transformers game is if you fucked up the designs. Oh, sorry, it's just a precaution. I haven't fully recovered since Michael Bay.
I love these designs. Not all of them. Some of them I don't really care for. Mostly just Barricade. I don't really care for him. I don't know why. He just kind of looks weird. Maybe it's because I'm so used to the one from the first movie. Honestly, I don't think he's gotten a good design since that movie, but, you know. But Ratchet, Megatron, and Optimus, I think these are some of my favorite designs of these characters. Hell, even Starscream and the other Seekers, oh my god, I love Skywarp, he's beautiful. Especially Optimus, that is probably my favorite design out of any ever, even just among some of the best Optimus designs.
I even got a figure, isn't that cute? He was surprisingly cheap, and to this very day, it kind of confuses me. He was like $30, meanwhile Megatron was like $70.
There is so much detail poured into these designs as well, especially during gameplay. You can see individual parts moving on their back and arms. Oh, it's so cool. I love this franchise so much.
Huh. Chick-fil-A's hiring. Might as well give them a call, you know? See if they can hire me and I can make some money. Hey, I'm calling for the job application that you have online. What's that? You don't hire...
Next, we got to talk about the voice cast, because it is elite. Peter Cullen reprises his role as Optimus, which shouldn't surprise anyone, but Megatron, instead of having Frank Welker, they got Fred Tatasciore to take a swing, and I think he's one of my favorite non-Frank Megatrons. Maybe it's because Fred is one of my favorite voice actors ever. I mean, he voices Nikolai, for fuck's sake. I was bound to enjoy his performance here, but I love the pure rage that Fred brings to this performance. Troy Baker is here, because this game came out at a time where Troy Baker was everywhere. Would you believe me if I said he voiced Jetfire? It's such a weird one, because honestly, I couldn't even tell that was Troy Baker, but I like him here. Zeta Prime, however, shit, I actually forgot what he sounded like. Steve Bloom is here. Love to see that. I kind of wish he wasn't restricted to just Barricade. I kind of wish there was more characters. He does voice the narrator as well in between the missions, but come on. He could have done more than that. It's Steve Bloom. Nolan North voices Brawl. I don't know why. That's just really funny to me. Thundercracker sounds like Keanu Reeves sometimes. It's not him. Maybe I've just gone clinically insane. But he sounds kind of like him at points. Please tell me I'm not crazy. I could keep going on about the vocal performances in this game and just keep listing each and every good performance. I genuinely think everyone does a good job here, but I'd rather not make this video the average size of a Pyrocynical video. So because this is a video game, that unfortunately means, you guessed it, we have to talk about the video game. It's really good. Yeah. It's a very linear game this time around, much like many shooters of its time, and because I played Dark of the Moon first, it makes it so much funnier seeing every single mechanic that got reused in that game that were originally in this one. And honestly, I feel like War for Cybertron just did it better. It doesn't surprise me though, because High Moon got put through a meat grinder for that game, and this game too. But this game at least had an actual dev cycle. But it's pretty good. Alright, let's try Kroger. Surely they won't have anything wrong. Hi, I'm calling about the job opening that you guys posted online. Oh, you don't hire those on the spectrum, you say? Let me call you back. War for Cybertron is very much a linear game with very little exploration to be had, which I find to work pretty well. Though I very much prefer some more open-ended level design, but what we get here is pretty good. It's a very cinematic game, and when I say that, I don't mean the stereotypical walk 3 steps cutscene, walk 3 steps cutscene, that stuff. This time you walk 4 steps. There's quite a few cutscenes in this game, don't get me wrong, but the most cinematic moments in this game all happen at least during gameplay. At the start of each mission, you get to choose which Autobot or Decepticon you wish to play as, and each mission gives you a selection of 3 characters from each faction, and it changes each mission. Like, do you want to play as Optimus, maybe Sideswipe, maybe Ironhide, or maybe you want to play as Megatron, maybe Thundercracker. Definitely not Breakdown. You do not want to play as Breakdown. Even Megatron is tired of him. The weapons are changed a bit in this game. In all other games I covered, ammo was infinite. You did have to reload in Dark of the Moon, but you never really ran out of ammo besides that. Here you are scavenging for any bits of ammo. It's really not that bad. The only weapon I really kept running out of ammo for was Megatron's fusion cannon and maybe the Jimmy Neutron rifle, but besides that, I kind of just always had ammo. The game throws ammo boxes at you at like every single room, it felt like, and most of the guns in this game are pretty good and they get the job done. Well, each weapon except for the scatter shot feels good to use at least. The Null Ray can put down enemies in a consistent one hit. The Jimmy Neutron rifle can shred enemies up in a bunch of shots in quick succession. And the EMP shotgun is actually usable against certain enemies. The thing I love the most about the weapons though is not because of the gameplay, but because they attach to the character's arms, becoming part of them. And even with turrets, your character just becomes one with the turret. I want to talk about the levels themselves now, because this is why I said the game is hideous in a beautiful way. As I said, the game lacks a lot of color. Like, it's there's a few reds, yellows, purples, blues here and there, you know? But what you're going to see a lot is the most dry colors you've ever seen in your life. This game almost gives Modern Warfare 2019 a run for its money for who has a worse color palette. Cybertron, despite its lack of many interesting and vibrant colors, looks absolutely beautiful. Its beauty manages to still shine through despite the dull color palette. I love all the technological and robotic parts of this planet. Whether you are in Kaon or Iacon, both parts look gorgeous. Even 15 years later, it is beautiful. I could have just said this with the graphics part that lasted 10 seconds, but I don't know. I just really want to talk about this some more because it's just one of those games that's like hideous because of its dull color palette, but also managing to still have beauty in the mix. Okay, man, don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. Don't mess it. Hi, you must be the one that called about the job offer. Yes, I am. Hello. So for this job specifically, you're going to be on your feet a lot for most of the day and doing some pretty strenuous tasks. I'm not sure that's going to work out for me. Why not? I don't know if you can see or not, but I'm kind of in a wheelchair. Why did you call a construction company? It's time to talk about the enemies. Finally, some variety. This is probably the most I've had to say about enemies in a Transformers game up to this point, so here you go. You have the common grunt-like enemies, the fat guys that are tankier than regular enemies, the flying ones, the ones that can only be hurt with back shots, and a giant they sometimes turn into a tank. Oh, and the spiders. That's all I have to say about those guys. Visually, they are the more generic Autobot and Decepticons that you would see in the previous games as well, yet still distinct enough in that same breath, at least in my opinion. I feel like they are distinct from one another. If we compare this game to the previous Transformers games, in this instance just the 3 tie-ins I covered, sure, these enemies aren't all too different. I mean, how many ways can you make a shooty guy shoot, really? But each enemy looks different from one another, and after encountering them, you could definitely understand what that enemy is and how you can approach future encounters. A lot of these enemies do fall in line with what is to be expected with a shooter. You got your machine gunners, your shotgunners, your snipers. Something you may notice if you play with your brain turned on is that shotgunners have regenerative shield. Meanwhile, snipers have a weaker shield, making them easier to take out. So that may have you choosing to prioritize the shotgunners since they will be regenerating shield and can get up in your face much faster. So it's better to take them out even if the snipers have better range. Then there's the Brute, which you will run into quite a bit. After a while, they do get kinda annoying to take on as you learn the most efficient way of taking them out quickly. But as an enemy like this, where you have to try and outsmart the enemy in a way, distract them enough to get behind them and kill them, it's nothing groundbreaking, but I like the variety it adds. These guys also carry rocket launchers and a giant hammer too. Then there's the Jets, which are enemies that you'll see transform in the middle of combat. They do this way more than any other enemy. Other enemies do transform, but not a lot. In fairness, however, the Jets really are the only ones that have an actual reason to do so. Then you got the Cloakers. I hate these guys. Not because they are annoying, not because they are difficult to fight against, not because they are bullshit even. They are none of those things. In fact, they are the very opposite of those things when talking about gameplay. No, I just hate their voice. They sound like they've dabbled in a few crimes that would get you put on the registry. Titans are an enemy here too. Though they aren't anything special, they carry a big fuck-off machine gun. They're fat and they're tanky, which can be said about most enemies in this game. But that's about it. They do drop the machine gun. You can pick it up and use it. Then there's the Destroyer. These guys are the big tanks that you shoot in the back and they turn into a big robot. They're okay. They're basically big bullet sponges and you just take them out. They're nothing strong. They're more so just being in your way, just to be in your way. Something I noticed about the enemies in this game is definitely that they felt tankier compared to the previous games. Maybe I was missing more shots, but I felt like at times I was putting in way more bullets into enemies with certain weapons compared to previous games. Which I don't entirely mind, as long as I don't have a scatter shot. Especially compared to the other games I covered, at least I have more ways of taking them out that are actually efficient. But also, these guys feel way more active in fights. These guys actually move around and are actually pretty daunting to fight against for what it's worth. Especially for regular enemies that aren't just boss fights. Not the most difficult enemies to fight. Really, the Brute is the only one that even falls more into just being annoying and tedious at times. Next on the agenda, we gotta talk about transforming. because it is one of the things that I feel these games have shockingly gotten right from the start. When it comes to the fluidity of transforming between robot and vehicle modes, even with a bit of jank, every game has managed to get it right almost to a T. But the handling and level design is just not really meshing well together, and here, the game kind of fixes that problem. Not only is transforming as fluid as ever, feels just as it did in Dark of the Moon, but the handling feels good. Dark of the Moon took a lot from this game, but I think vehicle handling is where they differ the most in terms of gameplay. They both have that slower, more precise handling that Dark of the Moon calls Stealth Force Edition. War for Cybertron, fortunately enough, does not use such stupid names. I had a way easier time handling vehicle mode, especially when boosting, because turning didn't feel as, how do I put this, reactive? Like when you turn while boosting in Dark of the Moon, you kind of just do a complete turn that almost throws you off course. In this game, while it's a bit more stiff, it's kind of that stiff and weight that I would expect from driving a vehicle.
Now we gotta talk about one of the most important things in these games for me. The boss fights. Considering this game came before Dark of the Moon, and I found those boss fights okay across the board, how do I feel about the boss fights in this game?
I feel like the boss fights in this game are almost 50-50 for me. I really like Starscream's. I don't know, him being a speedy bastard felt fun to fight against. I even liked Zeta Prime. It's not the craziest boss fight, but I found it to be a fun one. Omega Supremes is in the same boat. It's nothing groundbreaking. Honestly, it's more of a spectacle fighting a big-ass robot. A lot of people found him really hard, and to me, I didn't really find it that difficult. Granted, I played on normal and would dabble in hard difficulty every now and then, but I didn't find it that bad. I will say the second phase definitely does cross the line of being more bullshit than the first one, but honestly that becomes more of a continuous issue in this game. Really, my only criticism with this game is that some of the boss fights are either so bullshit hard and not even really feeling rewarding, or so disappointing and uninteresting it hurts. Don't get me wrong, I adore this game, and I know there will be at least 20 people saying it's just a skill issue. It doesn't help that some of these also only feel like they would even be remotely fun in co-op, which I'll get to that in a second. But what the hell was that Energon Bridge Guardian? The fuck was that boss fight, man? It's not even a boss, that's just a fucking obstacle. It wasn't even hard, it was just stupid. Like I understood the story context of it, but it just doesn't, I don't know, it just wasn't fun. Then you got Soundwave's boss fight, which I don't think is bullshit per se, but when I think about it, it makes me laugh. Soundwave controls the turrets, so you shoot them. Then Frenzy and Rumble come out to kick your ass. I don't know how they're capable of doing this, but I love those bastards, so I'm not complaining. But instead of Soundwave trying to actually fight you head on whenever you take out Frenzy or Rumble, he just spends most of the fight reviving his children, and he looks goofy as shit when he does it. Oh yeah, remember the worm? That whole segment I could live without. Listen, I love the space slugs. They're adorable in their own way. But this segment entirely, not even just the boss fight at the end, was just such a drag. The fight wasn't any better. Honestly, it wasn't awful, but like, this entire level could have went. I wouldn't miss it. Then there's Triptychon. Listen, I get he's the final boss fight. I get that he's supposed to be difficult. That's all fine and good, right? I like a good challenge. You can fuck right off with those missiles. I'm sorry. Sure, maybe I do have a skill issue, but damn! He refuses to let up on the missiles, and I get it, missiles are deadly. I don't expect Optimus to be capable of surviving a drone strike if I couldn't survive one myself. But there is so little cover in this arena, and for the cover that is there, he's still able to hit you! The second phase is by far the way more irritating experience. The first part where you're falling from space at least looked cool. I mean, yeah, the second phase looks cool too. But at least this wasn't bullshit. In fact, I found it really cool, at least for the spectacle of the fight. I thought it looked amazing just watching Triptychon fall out of the sky and land on Cybertron and see you getting physically closer to Cybertron. In fact, that entire segment when you turn him into his robot form, it's beautiful. It just sucks that the final part of that battle is just so irritating to try and play. Maybe it was much better in co-op, but man... The missile spam was absolutely horrible. Other than that, though, I have no complaints whatsoever. I find the rest of the boss fights to be pretty manageable. Not great, but Triptychon is really the only one I will not be willing to replay. The only other part of the gameplay that I feel is necessary to talk about is the co-op. This was a big focus when it came to game design, you can tell, because most of these boss fights are not great without playing co-op. I never got to truly experience the game in co-op in full, as I played it in solo just throughout the entire thing. And to be honest, I was shocked with how competent the AI teammates were. Well, given the very low bar, the only other game I've played in recent years was Halo 5. They actually did stuff in combat, which is way more than I could expect, especially when playing a game like Halo 5. It's no Resident Evil 5 where you give Shiva the rocket launcher and she has infinite ammo, but I will take this over the former, the Transformer. The boss fights definitely make it more apparent that the game design was more rooted into the idea of co-op, especially with a boss fight like Trypticon. I am convinced that is the only reason why, because I don't oppose this, it just makes it harder for me to talk about it when I play the game solo, especially when this game has been delisted for years, and trying to convince people to sail the 7 seas is not as easy as you think it would be. I wouldn't say this is an issue with the game. The boss fights are only part of the game, and of course are still beatable in solo, somehow. But I actually think the co-op capabilities add to the experience and can even make the game more enjoyable. Oh yeah! I completely forgot to talk about the story. I just have a few words to say about it, that's all. Honestly, it's nothing special, it's nothing crazy, it's just the war for Cybertron. Megatron gets his hands on Dark Energon. Not a bad story, in fact, compared to all the games I've talked about, it's the best one. By far, it's not even close, it's even better than Devastation's story. But honestly, I think that's more so carried by the fact that it has an elite voice cast. But other than that, the story it's pretty cool. It's kind of crazy that I never got a chance to play this game till now. 15 years had passed. I don't know, I guess I just forgot. If you were to ask me where I would put this game on the ranking of Transformers games, at least out of the ones I've played right now, I would probably slot it at number 2, maybe 3, alongside my favorites being Devastation. And from my memory, Fall of Cybertron was my favorite. However, I have to replay that one. One thing I will always find crazy about War for Cybertron, though, is that the figures of these characters are more accessible to the public than their source material. And that's just really funny. Unfortunately, I cannot speak about multiplayer or the escalation mode, as the servers were shut down back in 2020.
But that's War for Cybertron, released 15 years ago on June 22nd of 2010, at least in North America. I really love this game. It felt like a game made by Transformers fans, for Transformers fans. And it felt like they had more goals with this game than just trying to make some money off the franchise's name. You can tell they put their heart and soul into this game. Even if it's not perfect, that's all I have for War for Cybertron. It's a great game. Don't ask me how you can play it because I can't give away the method. While I was yapping about Transformers War for Cybertron, I managed to get a new job as an online grifter in the gaming space. I'm told it pays pretty well, and so I gotta go do that so I can later on talk about Fall of Cybertron. So, like the video if you want to see more reviews like this. Subscribe if you're new here, I'd love to have you here. And if you enjoyed the video, good. Now goodbye. Alright, first day on the job. I got this. This game sucks. It's terrible. This game is woke. I'm on a list. Oh, what's that? Oh, hey! A grinder notification. Why did your guys' phones go off?